Hello and welcome to a Rugby World Cup 2027 draw edition of Off the Ruck, your weekly rugby breakdown. And I'm here with my boy Lachie from Scrumbag's pod. Follow their stuff on Instagram and, of course, on the pod platforms where you like to get your podcasts from. Lachie, we have just been handed the draw of the Rugby World Cup here in Australia in 2027. And as you and I were just alluding to, it is looking mighty fine from an Australian perspective. Your first thoughts on the Rugby World Cup draw? I'll put it up here for you guys to see, and you guys can follow along as we talk about it.
My first thought was the suits at Moore Park would be so unbelievably stoked with the Wallabies draw. They've just been gift wrapped, probably the best opener you could think of. Australia against New Zealand over in Perth. I think you can just about lock that in straight off the bat because it's the first time we've ever been drawn, Australia and New Zealand, in the same Rugby World Cup pool. And then not to rain on Chile and Hong Kong China's parade, but comparative minnows in those band 3 and 4 positions. So the Wallabies have been gift wrap a pretty good pool there, even if they do drop that game to New Zealand. What did you see when you saw those names come out on the pool labels?
Oh, mate, more so than anything, I was just hoping and waiting that it wasn't going to be South Africa or, to be frank, England in our pool with us. It was more about what kind of psychological damage could be done to us early. But the first up clash, as you mentioned, which we all hope for, which is not confirmed yet, by the way, against the Cousins across the ditch, is an absolute banger of a way to start our campaign and start off what is to be the biggest Rugby World Cup tournament in history. And I am so happy that we have it on our shores. Look, Lockie, we could go through this pool by pool, and we might do that eventually, but let's just get to the juicy stuff first. What is the pool of death that you see it as right now? Because I don't think with the splitting of the 24 teams, it's not quite as deadly as it has been in years gone by. But I tell you what, there are two pools that I have my on for the pools of death. I want to see if we're kind of aligned. What do you think? What pool would you hate to be in based on their comparative strengths in those pools?
Good question. I think because of the nature of the sort of lucky loser in the third position for pools, we know that there's four teams that'll be plucked rather from those pools to get a lifeline. But you really want to be finishing top two, right? So with that in mind, I think the pools of death are probably pool F and pool B. Those are the ones that leapt out at me straight off the bat. And that's just because of the strength of the band 3 teams that are in there. If you look at South Africa, they're clear number 1 there, but Italy would be a bit nervous about going up against Georgia. It's a great rivalry in there. And then you look at pool F, England top of the pops there, and Wales really nervously looking at Tonga at the moment. So I think those are the pools that leapt out at me. Are we on the same page here?
Gonna be honest with you, mate, I saw it completely differently. And that's why I love that they've expanded to the 24 teams because
All
either way
right,
you
hit
chop
me.
this. So I looked at pool C and D. Now, because I am looking at where is Ireland going to be in 2 years? Where is Scotland going to be in 2 years? Where is Uruguay? Where is Portugal going to be in 2 years? And I can see that the gulfs between those teams to decrease and minimize. I'm not going to say that it's going to close at all, but I can see Portugal and Uruguay, particularly with a build in and a buy in greater from their home nations to be able to get their players up to scratch and an aging demographic, particularly in Ireland, but also the waning of a golden generation in Scotland. I really do think that that pool could get really, really spicy. Could Uruguay and Portugal really be able to ramp their preparations up across the next 18 months to 24 months? It's going to be wildly exciting to see how those team goes. And likewise in Pool C, we see what the women's side can do in Canada with not a whole lot of funding. Imagine what they could do with professional funding for the women's side. But for the men's side, they have a blueprint that can get their athletes to a better place. And Spain, you only need to look at their talent in the sevens and their absolute will to love rugby. That is a sleeping giant, I do believe, in European rugby if you're speaking about the untouched corners of rugby land that's fertile for some absolute ramp up in the rugby world. And Fiji and Argentina, You get them on their good days, they're near unplayable. You get them on their bad days, that is going to be a tough slog against a Spain that I think is going to get a lot better in these 24 months ahead, or a little bit less. We'll say 18 to 19. But I agree with you that Pool B and Pool F really look like traditionally tough sides with some good matchups. But Pool C and D is really where I see those strides being made, and possibly some waning, more so in Pool D as opposed to Pool C, which we know Fiji and Argentina are going strength to strength.
That's really interesting. I think maybe I'm looking at it more through that traditionalist lens, but it's more around the 2 to 3 that really intrigue me about those. I love the matchups between Georgia and Italy and the Wales tie. I just think that they're perfectly balanced at the moment there, and we could see any of those teams rise and fall. The nature of that third place lottery, I think really adds to that as well, because I think to get a full scale of who's been really handed a good draw and who's not, you have to look at the layout of the round of 16 and how those seedings go, because just from our cursory glimpses and what we've had over the past half an hour since it's been drawn, we can see that there are going to be some absolutely massive round of 16 and quarterfinal games for a few nations, and others have a much easier run to the semi-finals. So I'm really keen to lean into this with you, but steer us in the direction you want to go, Fergo.
No, I think you can keep taking us there. We are going to be, as I know, the Wallabies are going to be on the right hand side of this bracket. That is the better place to be, that you and I have decided and looked at now. And cross on the left hand side, who are those teams? Who are the Pool A winner? Who's the Pool C, EF best third? Who are the big teams that are going to be on that side? Because we won't have to worry about them should we make it through quarters, semis, round of 16.
Well, that's what leapt out to me straight away. So you look on that far on the left of your screen over there, you already see 3 or 4 teams for mine that you don't want to be anywhere near. That is New Zealand, South Africa, France, and honestly, Fiji. I don't want to
So
be anywhere.
South Africa, winner of Pool B. Winner
Yes.
of Pool A, likely the way that we've seen things now. Sorry, we'll go down top down order.
Mm.
Winner of Pool A, likely at this stage to be New Zealand. They're in our pool. We're likely to get runner up. Pool B, winner. That's going to be South Africa, almost guaranteed.
Mhm.
They won't drop off that much. And then Pool C, runner up, and Pool E, winner. Can you take us through those, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, looking at year's draw, you're thinking that the Pool C runner-up is likely going to be Fiji on current form to Argentina
Yep,
on current form, but that
absolutely.
could easily flip. So if we're assuming that the Pool C runner-up is going to be Fiji, that puts them on a collision course with the likely Pool F runner-up, which is
Yep.
Wales in a round of 16 games. So we could see Fiji-Wales, which is already a wonderful
Yeah.
rivalry at World Cup level. We could see that once again in the round of 16 in a knockout rather than in a pool where they usually play. So that's hugely exciting. That's probably one of the more exciting round of 16 games that we'll see. But what's underneath that is even more exciting for me. We're looking at the Pool E winner likely up against the Pool D runner up. And for mine, that's looking a lot like France versus Scotland in a round of 16 game, which is super exciting as well. So those are 2 fantastic games on the same side of that round of 16, with the winners heading in and locking into that side of the draw. On the flip side, if we're looking at round of 16 games and maybe working our way in, head across to the right side of your screen, looking like if Australia are going to be the runner-up of Pool A, which is expected at this point in time. You know, we're both repping the Wallabies jerseys, and even still
Of
will
course.
accept that. Looks like they'll end up as Pool A runner-up, and they'll go up against Pool E runner-up, which in our estimation, I think Fergo is going to be Japan.
Yep,
And then
exactly.
the most exciting game outside of that is probably a Six Nations round of 16 clash in that rung below, which looks like it's going to be England against Italy. And that's your
Yep.
estimated Pool F winner against the Pool B runner up. But again, Pool B, one of those contentious ones early. So, I mean, where does that leave Australia at this point, Fergo? We've identified some of those big round of 16 games, but it puts us on a pretty tough schedule from there heading into the quarters.
Yeah, so look, Pool F winner, we're looking like that's going to be England. That looks like honestly the hurt locker, because the way that I see it at the moment, England are only going one way, and that's up. And they have been extremely impressive with the depth that they've shown, with the development that they've put in their game. And I'm really impressed with what Steve Borthwick has been able to weather at home from a press and media perspective, to then to be able to get this side on track. And they're going to be playing in their game of 16, the Pool B runner up. That's going to be Italy. So that's cruisy for them to get through. Lower down, Pool C winner, that is going to be Argentina or Fiji. We flipped a coin on that one. We don't really know what's going to be happening there. And then Pool AEF best. So that could be Chile, and that could be USA or Samoa. I'd like to see Samoa, because I like to see the Pacific Islanders do well. Or it could be the Pool F best, which could be Tonga or Zimbabwe. But then again, big love for the Tongan and the Pacific brothers across the Pacific Ocean there. And then at the very end, you've got the Pool D winner, which is going to be Ireland or Scotland. And I think I'm going to tip Ireland here regardless, just because of that. I think that they're both on a kind of downhill trajectory, not a steep one, but I just think that they have really hit their straps in years gone by, and I'm unsure where they're going to be going in the next 2 years. We're very far out. We're 19 months out of that. So, and they're going to be playing rest of Pool B, E, or F. That's the third best. So that's going to be either Georgia or Italy. That in pool from Pool B, and then Pool E is going to be USA or Samoa, and then that is going to be sorry, was that E? Yep. And then Pool F, third best, that's going to be Tonga or Zimbabwe. So those pools on that side, I think we'd be happy to verse any of those in a game of 16. But as you mentioned, we're going to get Japan. But it does get really tough after that. As we mentioned, it could be Ireland, it could be Scotland, and then it could very well be England there in that quarter. So it's not necessarily easy on our side, but it's a whole lot better than South Africa, New Zealand, France. I tell you that much for free.
100%. And I think that New Zealand South Africa block is what really interested me when we saw the layout of the pool and how the winners and runners up are structured through the round of 16. Having your Pool A winner and Pool B winner on the same side in a round of 16 was always going to lend itself to some real pressure points. And what we've listed in our expanded round of 16s means that we're probably going to see, on current form, New Zealand and South Africa in a quarterfinal. So it's not even a semi, and you get a shot at a bronze and a shot at a gold. This is elimination footy, and one of the top two ranked teams in the world right now won't make it to a semi-final, which is absolutely crazy. Like, we saw similar scenes last time around in 2023 with France and Ireland both getting knocked out despite going through the pools unbeaten. But I don't think we'll ever see a bigger quarterfinal than New Zealand, South Africa, because that's the way it feels like it's heading as well. A bit beneath them, it felt like, as we mentioned before, probably Fiji on current form against France, and that seems like a run for France at this point, which sets itself up for, oh God, I mean, France take on either New Zealand or South Africa in a semi on that side of the draw, which is nuts. And then, as you mentioned, on the Aussie side, Australia likely to face England in a quarter, potentially looking at Argentina, Ireland on the other side. So as Australia's path to victory, well, you have to take down England. I think that's going to be the way it goes. And then Argentina, one of Argentina or Ireland. You could probably assume Argentina, given the Irish quarterfinal curse, but I mean, I'm so stuck on that thought of New Zealand and South Africa, and one does not make it through the quarters. It's incredible that New Zealand haven't lost a quarterfinal since 2007. You know, the chaos that we saw against France, and the only team rather to inflict a quarterfinal defeat on South Africa is none other than us, Wallabies, 2011. A very contentious and controversial game that Springbok fans still blow up the DMs about sometimes. So it's just this fascinating draw, and I feel it shows some teething issues around the expansion to 24 teams, but it is so exciting. I think off the back of the year that we've seen from the Wallabies, it's easy to feel deflated, but I'm energized about what we've seen in the draw tonight, Fergo.
Yeah, absolutely. There is nothing wrong with more rugby. I think it's 52 games across 6 weeks of absolute scintillating global rugby. And that is the thing. That's when I look at this map, and when I look at this draw, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing the world. I'm seeing countries from Africa. I'm seeing countries from South America. I'm seeing countries from East Asia. I'm seeing countries from the Pacific, and I'm seeing countries from the Americas as well in the North. And it's just so exciting to be able to. There were teams like Belgium. There were other teams like Brazil that just missed out. And it's so heartbreaking for those teams. But what we are trying to make is rugby to be a world sport, and it is growing. There is no doubt about the rugby is growing because, take us back 20, take us back 30 years, you couldn't host a tournament like this and not expect, even back then, even in 2007, I remember Japan was beaten 119-3 by the Wallabies, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, or it might have been one try to Japan. But those kind of scores are not expected at this World Cup. That is what's really exciting. Things could get ugly for Hong Kong, China. Things could get ugly for Canada if they don't get their act together. Things could get ugly for Zimbabwe. But in all honesty, majority of these teams play tough rugby against other similar opposition, and they are pushing teams like Georgia. They are pushing teams like Argentina A. They are pushing sides like Japan and Uruguay. It's really, really exciting to be able to sit here and say, in 2 years' time, with a greater funding pathway and with greater attention on the global sport, where some of these sides can get to. And I honestly hope that World Rugby sees this as an opportunity to be able to only bolster the strength of these minnow nations, to be able to truly get them world-class facilities, to be able to do well in this competition, because that will only make this even greater than it already is shaping up to be.
Yeah, massively. I think as well, people need to bear in mind that there will be some issues with those teams that you mentioned, just the smaller teams coming back into the World Cup circuit. For mine, it looks as though World Rugby very much wants to emulate the FIFA model, the Football Soccer World Cup model of having 32 teams in. So you have an even 8 pools, top 2 go through, play a round of 16. It's a much cleaner format, but the issues that we currently have are depth, right? We have hyper competitive teams all pushing for qualification, but they're still very much tier 2, tier 3. You'd expect sort of 80, 90, 100 plus scores if they come up against the South Africa, New Zealand, England. So this transition period, especially leading into the USA World Cup in 2031, I think is about testing that depth and preparing to expand further to 32 teams. And that's when we'll see a format that is a bit cleaner and streamlined. So some of the round of 16 games, I think, will still be pretty ugly. Like, you wouldn't want to be the third qualifier coming up against Argentina or an Ireland, or being fed as cannon fodder to some of the big two. But I think we're still going to get really high quality games. At least 4 of those round of 16 games are going to be excellent. And then you're going to have the most hotly contested quarterfinals in Rugby World Cup history. We thought 2023 was amazing. We've seen some absolute bangers through the years. I think 2015 in particular had such incredible quarterfinals as well. It's going to be even better. So I can't wait. Have you got it? Can we even begin to think about tipping a winner for 2027? I don't know if I've got the heart to, but I want to.
I think there's punters out there doing it. So there's heaps of people doing it. So I don't see why not. Let's give it a hot crack. I am really liking, as I mentioned, where England is at. I'm terrified for our sake in the quarterfinals, but I felt that they were building in the Six Nations. I knew that they had a softer landing in their July series, based because obviously they had a lot of Lions players out. But it just feels as though the way that they grew and the way that they were able to beat the All Blacks this year, and that's 2 years out, and they are only going to get a more experienced group. Like, they had guys like Guy Pepper, who a lot of people in the Southern Hemisphere had no idea was playing six. Like, they had a younger front row with Finn Baxter, and they have such a great age profile coming through, and a lot of caps under these players' belts at club level. Some of them are centurions and they're only 25, 26, 27, 28. So this is really, really good stuff from England. And I can only see that they have some absolute stellar talent, like Noah Kalori yet to come through. That guy scares the living daylights out of me, because that is a winger that rivals the likes of Suoli and Mark Nwangani Tuwasi for the raw ability to what he's able to have. And I haven't seen an athlete like that from England probably since Jason Robinson, if you want to go back and compare someone who's just genuinely out of this world athletic, they can just burn people. It's just crazy. So I think England. Do you have anyone different in mind?
I mean, on current form, it's South Africa, but I think the likely whoever wins that likely New Zealand South Africa quarterfinal wins the World Cup. I don't think you can lose from there the energy that you would take from that game. You'd head into probably a game against France in the semi, and like the flip side is that you could be drained and knackered, and a team like an England or an Argentina or cross our fingers, Australia might have the legs to get you there. But my God, like I just think whoever wins that quarterfinal is in the box seat, and I would love to see a winner that's not New Zealand or South Africa. Like it does get stale after the past 4 World Cups. And yes, cry us a river if you're from those countries. You win a lot. Well done. But yeah, I at the moment I'm leaning towards a South Africa England final, just on the balance of those draws. But what I wouldn't give for a bit of New Zealand Australia rematch after a pool game, like that's also something that's in the realm of possibility. And oh, I just love a World Cup, Fergo. God, it's good to be able to preview something happening on our shores.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. And again, looking at the pools, there is some, this is a question without notice or a comment without notice, but there is history here. So this is like, I think this is the first World Cup in a long, long time, if ever, that Fiji and Wales haven't been in the same pool. Like that is crazy. Like that is
I
super,
reckon.
like that is just nuts. And I always think back to the 2020 the 2007 game where Fiji just ran wild. They had players like Delasau. They had the halfback. I've forgotten what his name. They had the little at fly half. They were just out of this world good. And it's moments like that which have made their clashes so amazing. Even last World Cup, the devastation for Fiji to not beat Wales in that game, and you had Dan Bigger from Wales absolutely whipping his team into shape to be able to get them that win. They have played epic rugby over the years, over the decades, and it's just a shame we won't see it again. But we could see it later on down the track if those sides make it through.
I think we do see it in the round of 16, and it makes it even more exciting because just a bit of quick maths in their head. They have shared a pool in the 4 of the past 5 World Cups, so
There you
they're
go.
very familiar. And then if you cast your mind back, I think goodness, we've shared that same pool for the past 3, 2015, 2019,
Yeah,
and 2023. So boy, am I glad to not be in a pool with Fiji in a World Cup after what we
yeah,
saw in
yeah,
2023, or Wales for that matter. But I like that there's some existing pool rivalries there. I absolutely love the World Cup rivalry that's built around Argentina and Ireland. I think 2015 was so devastating for the Irish. And then if you cast your mind back further, 2003 and 2007, they had massive games together and while sharing a pool. Ireland scraped home in 2003, after the 1 point game with Australia. But then 2007, the RGs were the star of that World Cup, really beating France in the opening game. And then they made sure that Ireland were bundled out in straight sets. So I think the Ireland Argentina rivalry at World Cup is it's just delicious. And if with our own selfish Wallabies hat on, Australia England, it does not get better. Does
yeah.
not get better in a World Cup seeing those two teams beat the God-given shit out of each other. I think of 2003, how can you not? But you got a 1991 World Cup final. You've got a 1995 quarter where we got knocked out by a droppy. Throw in 2015 and bundling them out at home, and then the revenge of 2019. It is one of the great men's World Cup narratives. And we're very likely, without writing Italy and Japan off too much, we're very
Yeah.
likely to get another chapter of that. And just as a prequel, Eddie, Japan, knockout rugby against Australia. Oh, just a journo's dream.
There are a lot of a lot of storylines floating around already, and you've highlighted them there as well. You're really looking at I think it's funny because you look at World Cups and the Pacific nations have always had storied times in the World Cup. So that absolutely brutal clash between Samoa and South Africa in the 20 and in the 2007 World Cup, you've got the absolute, was it 2003 or was it 2007?
2003 was Brian Lamer on Howgard.
Yeah,
That
no, it
was
was
the
definitely
chiropractor.
2007. It was definitely 2007. That was brutal. I remember Skulkberger absolutely trying to get any arms around the number eight there. I think the number eight is Henry, right? Henry Tuolangi. And he just ran it from the back fence. It's just time and time again. John Smith got absolutely eight as well. It was just a great moment in rugby history. And then you've got Tonga beating France. I do believe in the was it 2011 or was it was it, I think it was
2011.
2011. Yeah, 2011. And then obviously you've got the great memory of Japan beating South Africa. It's just like like these World Cups are made of these moments, and there is no shortage of potential that can bring these moments yet again. And maybe there'll be someone else who, like, even Chile. I don't want that to happen, but Chile could rise. The Condor could rise and be able to create a fell swoop on one of the sides above it in the pool. Fingers crossed, not us. But it's just really, really exciting. So there is rugby history written throughout these pools, and there is also a lot of rugby to be written on the pages of the World Cup 2027 on our shores. Lockie, what I'll ask you now is, who is your favorite new team here? They can't be any of the band one or two teams. Who is your favorite new team here?
Ooh, I think it's a toss up between Spain and Zimbabwe. I'm really excited for a number of the reasons that you mentioned on Spain, especially how well they've been doing on the sevens circuit. If you haven't been following sevens for the past 12 months, get a load of Las Leonas. That might be the ladies' team, sorry, but the Lions, whatever they're called, the Spaniards, they are so, so good. But Zimbabwe takes the cake for me. I'm so excited about the Sables. There's a good little lick of Aussie flavour in there. We've seen just the wonderful storyline coming out of Ian Pryor, going back and playing for Zimbabwe and getting them through World Cup qualification as a fly half, after all his years as a half back across Australian Super Rugby. So just great yarns there. I would love to see the Sables do well. I think they're in a pretty tough pool, to be honest. But the thought of them, taking it to England or Wales and pulling off something miraculous, any wins for Zimbabwe would be incredible. So they're the team I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, look, that is a great storyline, and I think I would have to go with. I think I'd probably have to go with Spain. I think I'm gonna flip the other coin. They, like I mentioned, and as you mentioned, the Seventh Circuit is such a strong place for them, and I just hope that they can translate that and get a little bit of assistance into their 15 side, because they can play rugby. We know that, so that's going to be really, really exciting. What I do want to ask you with you now is, how important is the next Super Rugby season for Australia going up against the New Zealand sides? How important is it for Australia to be able to get some sort of foothold in this Trans-Tasman battle? We've definitely improved over the last couple of years, particularly the majority of the sides being able to play better against New Zealand sides, but it just hasn't quite been enough. Does it start in Super Rugby, do you think, or is it just when it comes to test time that it matters?
No, it absolutely matters in Super as well. You can very clearly link the success of the Reds in 2010, 11, 12 around a good period for the Wallabies there and driving the core of that team. You look to 2014 as well, with the Tars winning, plus back-to-back semi-finals for the Brumbies as well, who also played a final, I think, in 2012 or 13 against the Chiefs. Shout out Brumbies fans for which year that was. I should know that off the dome. And since then, what we've seen is a complete Kiwi dominance. The
Waratahs
Lions were,
2015,
yeah,
2014.
but
Yeah,
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 as mentioned, but like
yeah.
the Lions out of Joburg were the only real threat to the Crusaders across a long period of that
Mm.
transition into COVID, and then it's just been Crusaders one-way territory since then. It's no surprise that the Wallabies have struggled without consistently winning finals et al. So bear in mind there'll be so much scrutiny on the Reds, so much scrutiny on Les Kiss and how he can manage two Wallaby playmakers when playmaking is the chief concern for Australian men's rugby at the moment. So, geez, if the Reds don't go deep, there will be real pressure on Australia and on Kiss, which seems unfair because he's coming in at such a tough time. But, that's the contract that you've signed. Expectation too around Dan McKellar in his second year at the Tars with all the resourcing and all the outside backs and the talent they got on the books. What can they do? Do the Brumbies have to keep picking up the slack of everyone and marching to an away semi-final loss? And when will the Force wake up? There are so many questions for Australian rugby. So in a roundabout way to answer that question, I think that if you don't have an Australian team playing in the final in the next 2 years, we're going to have serious problems and expect a quarterfinal knockout to England in 27.
Yeah, it was very much how I felt about it as well. And it'd be really interesting to see how Les Kiss goes because he does have a job to do at the Queensland Reds. I wrote as much in my piece of Rugby Pass this week. To put that in the link in the description below for you guys to have a read, but also a peruse. And then also please let us know what you think about the World Cup draws, what you think about Australia's pool, what you think about the setup, what you think about the finals race, and how all these things are going to work together. And, we want to know which sides you guys do support. Please let us know in the comments below who you support, why, and if you have a particular special story with the side, we'd love to hear that as well. Lachie, I think that's where we're going to farewell the good viewers. They are going to be up to their eyelids up to their eyeballs really in rugby content about the Rugby World Cup everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. But it is also so exciting because it is still so far away, but we do have to really buy in and to be able to promote this because this is a really big moment in rugby history, full stop, but particularly here in Australia as well. So, Lachie, thank you so much for coming on this evening and for chatting World Cup Rugby 2027 draw.
My absolute pleasure. It is so exciting. You can tell how pumped up we are, despite the hour growing late and the eyelids starting to droop. Mate, thanks again for having me on.
To all you guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, give us your comments below, give us a thumbs up. That really helps the algorithm push it out. And then we're going to catch you on the next episode. There is really, really, really quite spectacular vision from the Force coming in from their preseason training. I had a chat with Simon Cron. That'll be coming out in December later. So keep your eye out for that on the socials. Everything will be in the link below. And you guys enjoy your rugby until then. Or maybe your summer if you're just in Australia. So cheers.